If you are looking to start a new business, it is very important to know and understand what are the different forms of business ownership. If you want to start, let's say, some coffee shop, which is more of a service, versus you want to create something, some goods, and you want to manufacture something, or you want to do some kind of consulting work. So you want to start a business where you'll provide business consulting to various companies. So depending on what you plan to do, what kind of business you like to start, it is very important to first of all understand what kind of business ownerships exist. What are the different types? What are the different formats? And once you know the key differences among these, it will be easier for you to choose an appropriate style or appropriate form of business when you want to decide upon starting a new business. So let's go through this chapter and look at various forms of business ownership. And we'll straight away jump into the first type, which is called as sole proprietorship. So sole obviously means single person. So what are the different attributes and what are the different requirements to be or to start a business which is a sole proprietorship? We are covering this first. There is a reason for that, because this is the simplest way to start any business. So if you look at what kind of paperwork is needed, so it says no special forms are required. So you don't need to fill any form, or you don't need to get any approval from anybody. You can just get started. What is the period of existence? So how long you can run this type of business? How long you can run a business which is a sole proprietorship? Basically, it ends when either proprietor who started this business dies or leaves the business. So it is totally up to the person who is starting or running this kind of business, how long they want to run this. Obviously, somebody may start as a sole proprietorship type of business, but later on may be changed to something different or more complex. Then what is the liability? These are very basic questions that come to mind. So what is the risk? What am I going to lose if I start a sole proprietorship kind of business format? It has unlimited liability. So if you have, let's say, $1,000 and you want to start this type of business, there's a chance that you may lose entire $1,000. Or if you have like $100,000, you may lose everything, because maybe that idea may not work and potential customers, they are not attracted to your product or service. Or on the other hand, it can become very, very popular. So in terms of liability, it could be unlimited. What about operational requirements? It has minimal legal requirements. So you don't have to obviously go to the government to get this business started. So you don't have to fill any forms. You just decide. If you have money, you develop your plan and get started. So nobody can stop you. What about management? So because it's sole proprietorship and a single person is running this, so this person has full control. So if I start this type of business, obviously I make all the decisions. If I need to purchase a computer or if I need to purchase a car to run this business, so whatever I need, entire control lies in my hands. I have full control of management and operations. There's nobody else in this business. So you are the only one and you have to manage everything. It's a good in a way, but also it could be difficult in a way, because if your business grows, then as a single person, it may be very difficult to manage and give time to each and everything. So usually like this happens at the beginning of a business, and when a business becomes very successful, so obviously when it starts growing, so you may want to look for like different options that exist to go from sole proprietorship to that something new. But as long as you are the only person running this business, you have full control. What about taxation? So do you have to pay any tax if you run this kind of business. So it says not a separate taxable entity. Taxes paid through owner's personal tax return. So just like you pay any tax every year, you pay tax based on this business too. So whatever expenses you want to show, whatever profits you want to show, or what you have, so it will be a typical personal tax return. Nothing special about the way taxation is done. What about raising capital? Like, how do you get money to start or run this business? So funding mostly derived from owner, outside funding difficult to obtain. So if you are starting a business in a format that has sole proprietorship, usually it may get started with your own funds. You may have saved some money and you want to get started with that money. That could be one way. You may also decide to borrow something from your family or parents. So it totally depends on you, but you have to raise this money. Outside funding is difficult to obtain. So if you have a wonderful idea, in your mind you feel that it's really good idea for a business, and you go to bank for loan, the chances are very less that they will approve the loan, because they may see that there's a big risk because it's only one person entity. There's no guarantee that this kind of business will succeed. So sole proprietorship has some advantages and it has some disadvantages. So based on what we have seen on the last slide, advantages are that there's an ease of formation. You decide today in your mind that you want to start this type of business, you just start. So very easy to get started. Greater control and flexibility. So you have full control, 100% control and flexibility. So let's say you don't want to work on Friday for this business, then nobody is going to come and tell you that, no, you cannot take a leave or you have to work on Friday. You decide because it is your business. No separate tax return. That's another advantage. You don't have to do anything special in terms of filing for tax. Business losses can offset personal income. That could be advantage that whatever losses you make may be balanced by whatever personal income that you get. But there could be some disadvantages like unlimited liability. If this business idea doesn't succeed, if it is not that attractive to other people or potential customers, and they are not interested in your service or product that you have, you could lose your investment. Of course, like you can try to divert that into some other direction. For example, if you buy a computer for this business and the business is not succeeding, you could also use that computer for something else. But there is a chance that there may be certain things that may go totally waste.
Could you explain the business losses can offset personal income again? I kind of missed it.
You're talking about business losses can offset personal income?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say you start a business which is a sole proprietorship. At the same time, you are working full-time somewhere. And let's say you make about $60,000 every year from that work. And this business you do on weekends. So when you are off work, so that time you are doing this business. Just to make the ideas concrete. So let's say this business is about, maybe you are selling some kind of t-shirts with a very specialized kind of logo on it. And you advertise that through a website. So you have a website or an app on which you present the pictures, and somebody who is interested in it may come to that website and may purchase. Let's say you pay some money to organize for all this, like you have to design, you have to invest some time on the computer, you may have to buy something, you may have to pay some kind of rent to use somebody's website. Maybe they have some annual fee. It may not be freely available. So let's say you have to pay about $500 every month. And you hope to sell these t-shirts in such a way that you make more than obviously $500. because if you make less than $500, you make a loss. But if you make more than $500, then you start making profit. Initially, because people may not know, the chances are that the first few months you may make a loss. Let's say first month you have zero sales, but your expenses are 500. So where that $500 is going to come from? So that can be offset, or it can come from your personal income that you get from your full-time job. So business losses can be offset. So losses will be there in the beginning, because when you start something, it takes time to really get attention, people knowing about it. You have to talk to many people, do some ads, or find a way to communicate that it exists. Otherwise, how do they know that you are selling t-shirt with some special logos on it? Apart from advantages, it has disadvantages. Unlimited liability. So obviously, if you are selling t-shirts and if they don't sell, then you can continue to lose $500 every month till you decide to stop it if it is not working. So there's no limit to how much you can lose. It is totally up to you. And then potential difficulty in borrowing money. Because you are a single person, so if you go to bank or anybody else, so they may have difficulty giving you money. When they see like many people, banks also get like more confidence. If you go alone, the chances are very low that they will approve loans or big loans. In partnership, obviously you have more than one person. And one popular partnership that started as a partnership, I think, was Apple. So Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and a third guy, so they came together to start a company called Apple. What kind of paperwork is needed? Again, just like the previous one, you don't need any special forms. No special forms are required. But they recommend that you have some kind of partnership agreement. So there should be some document where you agree to certain terms and conditions, which could include how long this partnership can run, what is the responsibility of each person. If there are 3 people in the partnership, what the first person will be responsible for, what the second person will be responsible for, and what third person will be responsible for. So maybe somebody manages all the accounting. So somebody is good with the numbers or accounting, so they manage accounting. Second person may be very like outgoing kind of person, and that person may like to go for marketing. And the third person may be good with ideas and working with people and may manage the operations. So partnership agreement could involve those things. It may also involve, like, let's say today, if I have 3 partners in my partnership, and tomorrow one of my friends want to join and make it 4. So what will be the terms and conditions for that? And how much money, for example, each partner is contributing? So are there any rules that anybody who wants to join, they have to contribute $25,000, something like that? So this agreement basically should include all those things. But it says that it is just recommended. It's not that it is a must. You don't have to have a partnership agreement, but if it is there, it's really useful, because who knows, today everything is good and you start with your close friends, you know each other so well, and you know that you are going to be together forever. But maybe after 6 months, things start to become difficult and things change in life. It's always good to have some partnership agreement in place, so that after some time, when things starts to get difficult, you can return to this and remind everyone that this is what we had agreed. It could also include how to break this partnership, like how to close everything and everybody goes back to whatever they were doing earlier. Now, how long it can exist? Basically, it uses a similar language that we saw earlier. So ends upon death or withdrawal of a partner, unless otherwise provided for in agreement. If partners withdraw, so they say that, okay, we invested like $25,000 each, and this business is not going anywhere, and we continue to lose money, and now we are left with only $30,000. So you decide, okay, let's break this 30,000 into 10,000 each and stop it. So it totally depends on the partners. And liability again could be unlimited. The business idea may not take off, and you continue to lose money. I don't know if you know, when Amazon started its business in 1995, so they started selling books through a website. So today it looks very common, but in 1995, when internet was not there everywhere, selling a book on website was like a very strange kind of idea. And Amazon was actually making loss for next 5 years. So they kept losing money, but they were improving their website, like fine tuning, making improvements all the time. There's no limit to like how much money you can lose, especially in a new business. So there's a question, does this mean producer will pay full FICA? What is FICA?
FICA for a discretionary deduction. Like if they're self-employed, like wouldn't that mean that they would have to pay like all the discretionary and mandatory deductions?
That's right. Yeah. If it is a sole proprietorship, then obviously they have to pay everything. Then operational requirements, minimal legal requirements. So this is again similar to the previous one. So you don't have to get any approval. You don't have to fill any legal forms. You can just get started. And these are basically made to support business and creative ideas, so that if somebody has a very interesting idea, they can get started immediately without like waiting for somebody's approval and things that take time. So minimal requirements legally. Then management, because you have partners, roles specified in partnership agreement. So as I mentioned earlier, it's always good idea to write down clearly in the agreement that what is the role of each partner. Who knows, like if there are 3 partners, they may have contributed equally 25,000, 25,000, 25,000. But it may also be true that maybe 2 people contributed 25,000 and third person did not contribute anything, but this person has the key ideas, the main ideas for this business, and the other 2 are counting on that. So maybe they decide to have a role where the person who could not contribute like financially enough, so that person takes more work responsibility, but it is purely up to the partners how they specify role for each and every person. Partners generally have equal voice. So whenever partnership starts, usually everybody involved in it, they have an equal voice. Taxation, not a separate taxable entity, and taxes are paid through owner's personal tax return. So even though it is a partnership, but each person in the partnership will pay their own taxes, and whatever profit or loss they make, they can incorporate in their personal tax return. So there's no separate form that you have to fill for filing for taxes. How do these people raise capital? So funding raised through partner contributions. So everybody brings some share to the table. So what are the advantages? Now we have more people involved, so more owners to contribute capital and effort. It's always true that 2 is better than 1 and 3 is better than 2, because more you have, more things you could do together, because you can share responsibilities, you can bring more funds. That's the advantage. Shared managerial and financial responsibility. In sole proprietorship, everything has to be done by one person. But when you have partnership, you are able to share managerial responsibilities and also like financial responsibilities. Utilize complementary skills. So again, like somebody may be good in talking to other people, or somebody may be good in accounting, or somebody may be good in operations. So each person brings their own talents and skills. So that's an advantage. It is easy to form because you don't have to do any legal paperwork. Once again, in this too, business losses can offset personal income. So disadvantages are also there. So now you don't have full control. So you have to share control with others or your partners. And also, whatever profits are made, it cannot only come to you, but it has to be shared with your partners. You may think of that as a disadvantage. Another thing is it needs the right partner. 2 or 3 people may have a very good friendship, does not mean that they can become very good partners. We cannot rule that out also. So it may happen that those people who have a very good tuning among them, so they really do very well when they come together as partner. So it points that out as a disadvantage, that you need to find a right partner, and sometimes it could be difficult. Differences in opinion on company's direction. So if there are 3 people, they may have their own ideas. Somebody may want to take a company in one direction and some other person wants to take in different direction. If you again think of Apple, which started as a small company and then slowly it was growing. Steve Jobs brought, I think, CEO of Pepsi to lead the company, and it proved to be a big disaster. And it reached a stage where Steve Jobs himself was thrown out of Apple because there were differences in opinion. Steve Jobs had some idea to take Apple in one direction, but the other guy, he came from a different background and he was not ready to take many risks. So he wanted to take company in different directions. And then he worked with the board in such a way that founder of the company was thrown out. Differences in opinion are very common when you have like several people. And when there are differences, that could be disadvantage. Partnership also has unlimited liability. You could lose everything if things don't go well. So we talked about partnership agreement, and although it is not mandatory, it's not something which must be there, but it is always recommended that you put something in writing. And what it can involve capital contributions. So how much money each partner is contributing to this partnership. Responsibilities for each partner, we talked about it. Decision-making process. So it should be very clear on this topic, who is the final decision maker. So let's say if it is purchase of computers for this new company and there are 3 people, so it should not be that all 3 have to approve that. So they should designate that, okay, this person should take care of this. And then hiring of people who should do, so who should be the final decision maker. All these things should be put in the partnership agreement. Shares of profits or losses. So how the profit will be shared, how the losses will be shared. So that should also be clearly written down. Usually like maybe people go for equal share. If the company ends up making $100,000, then if there are 3 partners in the partnership, so divide by 3 and everybody gets 1/3 of the profit. But then somebody may say that, okay, I brought 50,000 in the partnership funds, but the other 2 guys brought only 25%. So that means I should get 50% of the profit and others should divide remaining 50%. But whatever may be the case, it should be very clear in the partnership agreement that this is how profits and losses will be shared. Next thing that should be addressed is departure of partners. So if somebody has to leave for whatever reason, either they are not happy or they have some better ideas and they want to go into something else, then how the partners are going to depart. So it's not that in the beginning everybody contributed $25,000 to get started and when the person is leaving, you pay him 25,000 and say thank you. So it may not be like this, because after 6 months, the company may have grown, or the company may have lost a lot of money. So you'll have to very clearly lay out how a person will depart from the partnership. Same thing goes for addition of partners. Now, partnerships could be of different types. So general partnership is usually the default and the simplest one. So for example, if there are 3 people in the partnership and they share all the responsibilities and they contribute some amount of funds, so that's a typical general partnership. Now, limited partnership is that you may find a person who is ready to invest in terms of funds, but that person is very busy and this person cannot actually give a lot of time. So they cannot take up responsibilities for like managing all the operations or managing entire marketing or purchasing. Limited partnership means they are partner only in a limited sense. They may be contributing maybe money, or it could be the other way. So somebody may contribute only work and they are not able to contribute financially. So frankly speaking, general partners are the ones who are actual owners of the company and they are the full owners of this partnership. And limited partnership are those people who only play a limited role and they don't have 100% say in how the partnership decisions are made and how the partnership works. Now, coming from partnership to a bigger entity or bigger business entity, which is called corporations. Incorporation paperwork must be filed with state and federal agencies. So you have to do some paperwork now, both for state and federal agencies. So obviously, in terms of paperwork, this is more demanding than previous two. Now, how long it can exist? Now, person and the business are not the same thing. Like in sole proprietorship, your business and the person is same thing. Same thing with partnership. But in corporations, corporations are separate entity. So existence not dependent on owners or founders, and it can be easily transferred. You can sell this company and go away. Owners or shareholders are not personally liable for debts of corporation. Like you start a corporation and then it has a lot of loans, makes a lot of losses. So it doesn't come from your personal income, just like the previous two. So it's a separate entity and it can go bankrupt. You are protected in that sense. Operational requirements must have board of directors. So now you are doing something with state and federal agencies. So you have to fulfill certain requirements. So there has to be a board of directors. That was not required when you were working alone or when you were working in a partnership. But in corporations, you must have board of directors. You must have corporate officers. And then you should call annual meetings where you report out that what the company's plans are, how they did in the previous year, what you will do in the next year. And there has to be annual reporting. All these formal things need to be in place. So shareholders elect board of directors. There has to be obviously some kind of democracy. So people who hold shares in these corporations, they choose who can be on the board of directors. So they have to obviously conduct voting, and whoever gets maximum vote, they are selected to or elected to board of directors. Now, what the board of directors do, they provide strategic management of the corporation. So they give a long-term goal, what this company will do, and they appoint actually senior management. They choose who should lead this company. They choose the CEO of the company, or who should lead the operations, who should lead marketing, things like that. now it is a separate taxable entity. So now person and the business are two separate things. Even if you are the CEO of this corporation, so you have to file your own taxes, whatever money you make during the year, doing certain things. But this corporation also has to file taxes. It's a separate taxable entity. Corporations file its own tax return. Capital is raised through sale of stock and debt issue. Now, what is a stock? When you have any corporation, they have a specified number of stocks. And these stocks are basically, in a way, you are breaking this company into small, small pieces so that each piece can be purchased by anybody. So for example, I can go to the stock market on my website, and let's say I want to buy 100 shares of Bank of America. So I can do that. Or I want to buy 10 shares of Apple or Amazon. So I should be able to do that very easily. So corporations raise money by selling the stock. This is a typical corporate structure. You have shareholders at the top. So those people who have purchased shares of this company, so they are the owners of the company. And then they vote for certain board of directors. So board of directors are the next ones. So board of directors are hired by shareholders. Even if you have one share of, let's say, company like Apple, which is like $2 trillion company. So you can proudly say that I own Apple. So it may be a very small percentage, but you own that company even if you have one share. And then you have power to vote to choose board of directors. And board of directors will choose CEO. They will choose who should lead the company. If they are not happy with someone, they can always fire. Like Steve Jobs was fired from his own company by board of directors. And board of directors also will basically appoint senior management. It may be chief financial officer, chief operating officer, chief sales manager. So these are the top activities any business does. So businesses need like finance or money. Business needs somebody to run the operations, working with all the suppliers, getting things made, transporting them, managing all the warehouses, logistics, entire supply chain. So somebody has to manage all those operations. So that person is COO, Chief Operating Officer. Current CEO of Apple is Tim Cook. And before he was picked up by Steve Jobs to lead the company, he was the COO of Apple. He was managing all the operations within the company. And then you have sales managers, chief sales manager. And below all these CFOs or CEOs or CSMs, you have line managers, and below them you have employees.
Aren't board of directors the highest people? Why are the shareholders above them if they're just a little piece of the business?
Okay. So who will choose these board of directors? It is actually chosen by shareholders. So if I have like I purchase one stock of Apple, when there is a shareholder meeting or there has to be some kind of voting, I will receive a message that I need to vote, and there may be like, okay, these are the 10 people. Out of these 10 people, we need to vote for like 6. Those 6 who get the majority vote may be selected to the board of directors. But the voting is done by shareholders. So shareholders will choose who is on the board of directors. But see, if I have only one stock of Apple, so I'm not really a very big shareholder. There are some companies like, or even people like Warren Buffett. He invests in companies not by buying like one stock, but he purchases a big chunk of the company. So obviously, if somebody has 10 million shares of a big company versus I having just one share or one stock, so somebody who has 10 million, so they have 10 million votes. So they will have a bigger share of who are appointed to board of directors because of more shares they hold.
Yeah, but they don't do anything for the business except just hold a piece of it, right? Like they don't, I know, I'm just confused on how, aren't they just like random people? How would they have a say in the board of directors?
See, some people may buy stocks in without like doing much research and all that, but people like Warren Buffett, and there are many people like that, and also like there are various companies who have these retirement funds that are put in various stocks, and they have a big say because they control a big chunk of a company. One share of Apple may be 0.00000000, maybe 1%. But there are people who have 10% stake in the company. Somebody may have maybe invested $5 billion in this company, and obviously they have much more share. So when they vote, their votes will be much bigger because they have more shares, they hold more shares of the company. People like Warren Buffett, they will not invest in a company just like that. So when it is a question of like $5 or $10 billion, they will do like months and months of research and analysis and see whether this company is undervalued or not, because ultimately they want to see whether this company can continue to be profitable for next several quarters. So they are not looking at like just 3 months from now or 1 month from now. So because they are investing big money, they are taking big risk. Maybe this company doesn't live up to their expectations and doesn't perform as well. So because they are taking big risk, so they have a role to play. So they have to see who are the people on the board of directors, and they should have confidence in them. And if they do not have confidence, like this big stakeholders, if they do not have confidence in board of directors, they can always fire one and hire a new one, a person in whom like they have more confidence. That's why you see from time to time people are fired if they don't perform well in as a board of directors. Even CEOs are fired if they do not do well. That guy from Pepsi who was leading Apple and who got Steve Jobs fired from Apple. So after that, Apple went down and down and down. It was almost at the verge of bankruptcy when Steve Jobs was called back to lead the company. And that time, whoever people were the shareholders, they saw everything and they saw that we have more confidence in this guy, and they fired the current CEO and also some board of directors. So this is something like that keeps on churning depending on like how the company is doing. If a company is not doing well, then it doesn't take much time for people to get fired. And also board of directors, it's not something they can be there all the time. And who decides that? Shareholders will decide that, because shareholders actually own the company. To summarize about corporations, corporations have certain advantages, but also they may have some disadvantages. So one of the advantages is that it has limited liability for shareholders. Because corporations are separate legal entity, so any debt that a corporation takes, so shareholders are not liable for that. So this is a plus point for any shareholder. Another advantage is extended life and ownership transfer. Even when founders are not around, corporations can go from one shareholder to another shareholder without a problem. That's how they have extended life. Raising capital is also much easier for a corporation. Like one way they can raise capital is they can sell some shares of their stock and the shareholders can buy something. So that way they can raise money. Or they can go to bank, and because they are corporations, so banks are much more likely to lend them money. And the next advantage is tax benefits. So a corporation that makes a profit of up to $50,000 are taxed at only 15%. But if I am a sole proprietorship and I make that kind of profit, I'm likely to pay tax of about 28%. So that way corporations have an advantage in terms of paying less taxes. But with advantages, we also have some disadvantages associated with corporations. And one of them is reporting requirements. So corporations obviously have to do a lot of reporting. Because corporations are separate entity, their reporting requirements could involve having an annual report. Somebody have to take minutes of the meeting. They have to do paperwork for filing a tax. And another disadvantage is double taxation. Let's say you invest in company like Apple. So Apple has to pay taxes for whatever profits they make during the year. But as a shareholder, I also need to pay taxes from whatever dividend I get because of holding the share. So that way there is a disadvantage of double taxation. Next, let's talk about S corporation. So as the name indicates, this is also a corporation. The only difference is that they have chosen to be taxed under separate category of IRS code, and they chose to be taxed under S subchapter. So that's why this alphabet S. So in terms of paperwork, obviously they have to do paperwork with state as well as federal agencies. And for period of existence, they again do not depend on founders. They are a separate entity and ownership can easily be transferred from one person to other person. In terms of liability, shareholders are not personally responsible for the corporation's debt. So that's an advantage. And in terms of operational requirements, obviously they must have board of directors, corporate officers, and they have to do annual reporting, just like what we saw for corporations. Their management style is where shareholders elect board of directors, and this board of directors provide strategic guidance to the corporation. And they also appoint senior management. And you'll notice one major change from the previous one that we saw. So in this case, for taxation, profits and losses, they pass through owners' personal tax returns. So this is something different. And as far as the raising capital is concerned, so again, capital can be raised by sale of stock, or they can go to bank, take debt. And as per US Internal Revenue Code, to be a S corporation, there are certain requirements that need to be fulfilled. So company should not have more than 100 shareholders, and these shareholders should be US citizens or residents, and this company must issue only one class of stock, and they must distribute all profits or losses to each shareholder. Now let's look at next type of corporation, LLC, Limited Liability Company. So just like S corporation, LLC combines certain advantages of limited liability with tax advantages. So usually this type of corporation is a good choice for startups because there are some good tax benefits and financing is also easier. Another advantage that LLC has is that it is free of annual meetings and reporting requirements that we see for S corporations. So this slide summarizes various aspects of all these corporations, and it is much easier to compare these 5 forms of business ownerships. Not-for-profit corporations, so they are not looking to make profit, but they are looking to achieve certain goals that are related to the society. So whatever extra money they generate and whatever is left over after normal operations, they use that money towards their declared social or educational goals. And because they are doing something unique, they have tax exempt status granted by state and federal government. And another good thing is that if somebody donates money to not-for-profit corporations, they can deduct their donations from taxes. Another form is cooperative. So this is a business that is owned and governed by members who use its products or services. So any profit that they generate, are returned to their members. And members to cooperatives could be people at an individual level, or it could be businesses too. And it is basically run by members. So members set the policy and members elect directors. With businesses, as they grow and become successful, many things happen, and mergers and acquisitions are two such things which are very common. So merger is when two companies come together and become one company. And acquisition is more aggressive, where one company takes over another company. There could be friendly acquisitions, but there are also hostile acquisitions or hostile takeovers. A company may aggressively go after another company and acquire. So that's a hostile takeover. And usually hostile takeovers occur through tender offers. And what this company that is attempting to buy this other company, they try to do is they try to offer higher price to shareholders so that they can sell their stock and this company can take over easily. Another way to take over a company which is actually not willing to sell itself, but another company is really interested in taking over this company, is through proxy fights. So the company that is trying to take over this attractive company, so what they do is they try to work with the target company shareholders to vote out existing management and then bring those people who are sympathetic to this company that is trying to do this hostile takeover. So that's called proxy fight. And there are various reasons for mergers and acquisitions, and three of them are listed here. One is synergy. So the idea here is that 1 plus 1 is not equal to 2, but it is more. So whatever these companies are doing individually and whatever they can achieve, if they work together as one company, they can achieve much more, and that's the biggest attraction. Mergers and acquisitions also happen because of greater competitive advantage. So companies buy another company, acquire another company, or merge with other company, and sometimes it brings a lot of competitive advantages. So if you think of Google, so Google has acquired so many different companies like YouTube. YouTube is so successful, and they have done this with many smaller companies that have been acquired very successfully. And the other thing is sometimes it is to bring innovation. So bigger companies, they are looking for something innovative and they take over these smaller companies which have some unique ideas, and bigger company thinks that they can take advantage of that at a much bigger scale. For example, Apple purchased the Siri, and now we know that Siri is so popular with iPhones. Similarly, IBM purchased SPSS, that brings a lot of technology related to statistical analysis or machine learning or artificial intelligence. When you think of merger, merger are of different types. Some of them are depicted here through pictures. So one type of merger is horizontal merger. Two similar companies come together. So they have like similar product lines and they have similar markets and they come together. One recent example I can think of is Sprint and T-Mobile. So they have come together. So that's like a horizontal merger because both are in same field. They have similar types of offering. So vertical merger may involve merging of companies that have a company and supplier kind of relationship. So one example shown in this picture is there could be a company that makes ice creams and there could be a company that makes cones. Or if you think of automotive companies, so if there's a company that supplies engine to a big automaker, so when they merge together, it will be a vertical merger kind of activity. Another type of merger is a product extension merger. So a company merges with another company that has slightly different types of products and services. It is slightly different, but not totally different. So obviously there is some relationship. For example, ice cream and cookies, obviously they are not totally different kind of products. It will be very odd if a company which makes ice creams merges with company that makes cars. Another type of merger is market extension merger. So There may be a big company selling ice cream in one location, and that company merges with another ice cream company that has a big market, but in totally different location. It could be different states, it could be even different countries. And then you have another type of merger, which is conglomeration. So these companies may not have any common product, but they merge for the reasons of diversification. Although there are several advantages of mergers because of which companies come together, but certainly there are some disadvantages. It has been seen historically that more than half of the mergers are not very successful. They do not meet expectations, and people have given several reasons for that, and some are listed here. It may happen that the management may not do a good job of proper integration, and there are a lot of difficulties, and as a result, the merger is not really successful. There could be conflicting corporate cultures. So there could be one company which has one way or one style of functioning, another company has different style of functioning, and it may not gel properly. For example, in some companies, they are very particular about time of the meetings. So if a meeting has to start at 9, so everybody will be there and they are very disciplined. But if the other company is more laid back and people just come in, and although the meeting was supposed to start at 9, but even the organizer is not in the meeting and the actual meeting starts at 9:15 or 9:20. So obviously there is going to be some friction between the two companies or two group of people, and it may create difficulties. And then when two companies come together, obviously the senior management, there may be some struggle for power. So let's say somebody in company one was due for a promotion, but now because of merger, instead of one person, there are three people who were due for promotion, and only one may be able to get that promotion. So other two people may not feel happy about it. Another reason is that some people may not be really happy because of employee turnover. They fear that they will lose their jobs. Their fears may not be 100% false, because it does happen that when there are companies merging, a lot of people lose jobs. So this was a very quick overview of different forms of business ownership. Thanks for listening.